Hey everybody, welcome to the Late Late Horror Show! I am Dino and...
Ted Rico.
Yes, you are. He is here.
What are we talking about
today? We're going to talk about serial killers in film.
In the movies.
In the movies, yeah. Just a little bit of serial killer talk and, you know...
Based on a true story. Doesn't that line always grab us?
Always.
You see that, based on a true story, and the true story might just be like, you know... It was a sunny day on that day that it happened.
Yeah.
The rest is all made up.
Yeah. But yeah, hey, check out the links below, as always. And
we've even had a couple of movies about stuff made here that's happened here in the Cleveland area, you know. You know, we've got... Did they make an Anthony Sowell movie yet?
No, they didn't.
We got to make an Anthony Sowell movie.
You guys, if you haven't, yeah.
I mean, they made one about...
Heard about him.
Even though he's not a serial killer, but the Ariel Castro kidnappings.
Heads and... garbage bags and stuff.
We already had a movie about that. 2 or 3 books.
They were the Anthony Sowell one. No, I'm still talking about it. The Anthony Sowell here in Cleveland. Bodies in bags and stuff like that, and the smell coming from the house in the area.
We blamed it on the sausage factory.
There was a sausage factory next door, and they kept blaming the smell on that.
And those people put thousands and thousands of dollars to upgrade all their stuff because people were saying it was them.
Yeah,
it turned out to be this jackass next door.
Yep.
But
which segues into how. It's so strange how that kind of stuff happens. Like, these serial killers...
Not too far from where we are now.
They get away with these, killings and everything else that we're going to start talking about for years and years and years, and you wonder, how is it possible that nobody knew or nobody understood what was going on?
I think nobody thinks it can happen next door to them.
Right, exactly. And
just like the Ariel Castro, he had 3 girls locked up in his house, and all these people don't know?
Yeah.
They're
so
right
easy
there.
It's so well, and he had everything boarded up. The windows.
And no one thinks that's suspicious?
Yeah, everybody turns a blind eye and just thinks...
Amazing.
Thinks people are... They're crazy, they're kooky, where there's a nightmare going on behind that door and those windows, and you have no idea. And
so
it's
right
scary,
here,
man.
Right here in the Cleveland... And, at least where Anthony Sowell did his crimes, that's kind of in the shady area of town where...
And how they caught him was the lady did escape.
Got away.
And climbing through a window, falling off the porch and stuff like that.
Naked, titties hanging everywhere.
And even then...
they did. I don't think they believed her at first.
Yeah, they didn't believe her at first. And, they had to go on and on and on. And finally they said, okay... Looks like there is something going on.
Because there were cameras in the back of that pork shop that caught things too.
Yeah.
Like of her a woman jumping out a window and him going out there. He's butt naked too, grabbing her and bringing her back in the house.
And it's okay.
Nobody says anything.
I mean, it's shady side of town. Usually, a lot of times that's how.
And the girls that were kidnapped. My dad, when he first moved to Cleveland, this happened on Seymour Avenue, which is only about maybe a 10-minute drive from where we're at right now.
You can usually see more there, too.
And my dad lived on that street when he first moved to Cleveland.
Really?
Yeah, that was not that house, but he lived, but he lived on that street. And
he'd get sausages from that sausage factory.
Now that's in the area of town where I probably maybe white people shouldn't go. But
No, I know.
But hey, it just goes to show, and it happens. And it happens everywhere. It can happen any place, and I'm always interested in... We're going to talk about Hollywood films, but I'm also very interested in deviant behavior and the documentaries I watch. About... I'll usually give any of them a try.
Right,
some of them are pretty crappy.
Yeah.
But some of them are really bloody good. Mm-hmm. And I'm always interested in trying to... I'm not as interested in what they did as opposed to what got them there.
Right, the story behind what...
I don't need to watch a movie about Jeffrey Dahmer killing a bunch of people, because I know what he did.
No, right, of course.
But whereas maybe a lot of people didn't dig it, I thought that movie that came out, My Friend Dahmer, a while ago about...
Yeah.
And that's the thing, too, because he's from here. He was from, Ohio.
Ohio?
Bath, Ohio, which isn't that far. Like a 40-minute drive, if that.
Yeah.
And it's, Ohio is also where he committed his first murder. Mm-hmm. I thought that movie was brilliantly acted. I had read the book, which was a graphic novel. I had read that before.
Really didn't have anything to do with serial killing, though.
No, but it showed...
It tried to show.
The deviant behavior beginning
Okay.
The warning signs that they always talk about that he displayed, and how he used alcohol to cover up these feelings that he had. It was to totally take those feelings away that he knew were wrong. And I think there's even one scene where he's at a doctor's and he's trying to,
explain.
He says one little sentence to a doctor, and the doctor just poo-poos it off, and it just, to me, that film showed his struggle at a young age trying to figure out what the hell's going on in his head. Yeah. And basically how every adult in his life let him down. If just one person had noticed something, or intervened in some way, maybe something could have changed. A lot of people would still be alive.
Yeah. I guess if they knew something was wrong, medication, something, maybe, I don't know, controlled behavior. Because again, I always go to Dexter, because the whole show's about a father figure that knows that, whoa, there's something wrong with this kid. I'm going to hone what's going on there and turn the serial killer into a weapon of sorts, or so he's not just killing innocent people and stuff like that, but
killing criminals or whatever.
Right. And, so I always go to that because it's like,
it's interesting.
And there's all, because a lot of times you can't change what's in here, even with Ted Bundy and other people, which we'll get into. It's up there. You can't reconfigure their brains. Once they're in prison, you can try to reconfigure.
A lot of it's nurture. I mean, most experts will say, you can have these things in you.
Well, Jeffrey
but if
Dahmer,
you are, and yes, maybe he's one of those rare cases where, okay, he had some problems at home. He had a mom that had some mental illness issues. Right. His parents did get divorced, when he was graduating high school, and but other than that...
But he also, he was a pyromaniac. He was
the dead animals.
And torturing
and see, his father kind of fostered an interest in that. He noticed his son was interested in dead animals, and he showed him how to, bleach the bones and use chemicals to do that. He
helped
unfortunately,
without knowing.
It was probably the wrong... But see, people didn't know then what we know now. They didn't know these were the warning signs, and he's one of the few of these people he did horrible things, and
yes, he did.
Deserves everything that probably happened to him. Everything that happened to him he deserved. But I find him a little bit pitiable. Not, just because...
Almost soulless?
No, I mean, just pitiable in that, he wasn't beaten. He wasn't sexually molested. These horrible things didn't happen to him. It's just something that was in him and nobody noticed it. And I think, if you watch a movie like My Friend Dahmer, there were times when he was screaming that there's something wrong, I need help. But nobody knew. Nobody, thought to think that, hey, here's what's going on. And he didn't know any other way to cry out for help, I guess. How do you go up to somebody and go, I'm just having fascinations about, having sex with dead people or whatever. How do you do that? How does a 17 or 18-year-old even think to broach that subject with an adult? And, now we know a little bit more. We see warning signs, and, we have social workers in school and counselors and things like that, things they didn't have before.
There are certain things you can,
and, if there was just a little bit more nurture, I think maybe those things would have subsided. Like if you just you can have these bad things in you,
right?
But then if you,
I'm not sure you can nurture them.
No, listen to me. No,
go ahead.
You know what I'm saying? I'm saying nature versus nurture.
Yeah.
Okay, if it's in your nature to do all these horrible things, but you're in a loving, caring environment where your mom's not mentally ill, your folks aren't getting divorced, you're in a good home. Maybe sometimes those things, those feelings that you're born with or whatever happened won't come to a head. It doesn't. I feel like it's not necessarily inevitable that you will become that evil thing if you're but well, many of these people,
I'm sure there's a chance that
exactly, it's a roll of the dice.
Can't.
But then there's so many of these other characters that we'll go through from the movies that had horrible family lives. So if you're born that way anyway, and then all this other bad crap starts happening.
Of course.
You know,
I think the thing I was saying with nurturing, if you get the nurture, maybe that will go.
I'm not talking about nurturing the bad things. I'm talking if they're in a positive environment. Let's say like one of your kids. Let's say they had some tendencies like that, but they're in a positive environment. Mom, dad, activities, good school, everything. Maybe those things. You're putting more good into the child than bad. Yeah. They're exposed to more good than bad. So anyway, that's where I was kind of going.
Okay, no, I get you, man. Well, let's finish out the Jeffrey Dahmer talk with what I mean. This is a guy that in real life...
They've made several movies about him, by the way.
Cannibalism. I mean, this dude ate his victims.
He felt very...
He put...
very rejected by society.
Of course, yeah.
Not a lot of friends. Yeah. Or any friends, really.
Loner, yeah. And he would his...
And that was his way of keeping them with him.
His prey were homosexual, younger... men.
Right, couple that on top of everything else, he was gay.
Yeah.
He had, and it's still, in the early 70s, whatever it was, it still wasn't the most acceptable thing in the world.
Yeah.
Some places of the world now it isn't. I think we're getting there.
Yeah.
But,
No. Yeah.
And then so you couple that on top of all the other weird feelings he's feeling. I mean, he was probably angry at himself.
Right.
What's wrong with me? So.
But hell, yeah, I mean, the dude had, how big were the drums? Like 50-gallon drums of acid. I mean,
big enough to put a body in.
In his apartment, just decomposing bodies, freezing. Because he would eat parts of the body and stuff like that. Just an unbelievable scene when they came in because one of his victims got loose. Mm-hmm. I mean, otherwise he would have
got caught even sooner. He was an underage. I think he was like 14 years old.
Yeah.
Got loose, and he was still a little groggy from the drug. He would always put like a roofie in your Coke or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
And
knock you
some
out.
Girls called 911 that saw him out on the street. He was butt naked, and Jeffrey had gone out to go buy like some more beer or something like that, and he comes up, the cops are there, and he convinces them that this is, because he looked older than 15. He's like, this is my lover. We had a spat. I'm sorry. And the cops just like, they don't want to deal with that.
right? Yeah,
and
isn't that
took that kid back to that apartment where he then murdered him. And it's boy, how would you like to be those cops?
Yeah, can you imagine how they felt after that? Yeah,
I wonder if next time contract renegotiation time comes along.
Yeah.
Put that story on. How much do you want us to pay you now?
Very twisted, man. But
because no one wants to think that kind of stuff's happening.
Yeah. Well, let's jump right to the next bigger one, which isn't the biggest, but in horror films and stuff like that. That's why I'm bringing up Ed Gein.
Well, he's a huge influence on horror films,
right? But as serial killers go, a lot more is involved with what he's done. And
he actually only killed 2 people,
right? So,
and the rest were just digging up graves.
Yeah, bodies that he would, more like the Psycho thing, which. So many stories in films came from Ed Gein.
Very little of Psycho, I feel, is Ed Gein. I mean, the whole fixation with the mother,
and that's
but not much else.
Yeah, it's like when they
he
say
didn't dig his mother up, as far as I know.
No, but he the women with the oh God, I mean, when
sex is dirty, the sex is bad.
Right. Yeah, and when they caught him, in his house, he had skull bowls
eating his Lucky Charms
eat cereal out of. He had nipple belts.
Well, who doesn't, though?
So he would make the skins. He had faces with the skins that he would,
He made a female bodysuit, much like what Buffalo Bill in Silence of the Lambs was trying to do.
Right, yeah. And lampshades he would use the skin for, which harkens to Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Nazis did that.
And
he had tons of books like that. He had a lot of those pulp magazines with Nazi stories and gruesome horror stories and things like that.
But his childhood was... Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean
Well, he had an overbearing mother.
Right.
Very overbearing. Big, tough, strong like bull.
Yeah.
Had a brother. And it's actually kind of rumored that he may have killed his brother. There was a brush fire, and they were out there trying to put it out.
Not sure for sure.
And he claimed that in the smoke they lost each other. So he gets some guys, and they're, after the fire's put out, and when they're looking for him, he leads them directly to where his body is.
Yeah,
but he says we got lost in the flames. And, excuse me.
Oh, no, sorry.
And supposedly the body looked like there could have been some trauma to the head, but, nobody did anything. It was the 50s. Nobody did anything about that then. And so, I think he just didn't want to share his mom. Mm-hmm. And I think, he did that. So
yeah. Yeah, I would recommend Ed Gein, The Butcher of Plainfield.
There's a few different ones.
I was going to say, there's plenty of different documentaries.
This isn't the one that I've seen. This one stars Kane Hodder, but there is another one.
Oh, yeah, got some
it's got the actor who plays him is Steve Railsback. Mm-hmm. He's been in episodes of X-Files. He was in... Life Force. You'll recognize him if you see him. Oh, yeah. And that one wasn't too bad. I mean, they show him in that female suit out in the yard banging with bones, and he even looks like him a little bit. I think maybe that's why I liked it a little better, because he had that look. That movie was all right, but I mean, Ed Gein was weird. I mean, I think he was certifiably insane, and he spent the rest of his life in a mental institution. He didn't go to prison. He was in a mental hospital.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, yes, he did these things and knew he was doing them, but I don't know.
Ed Gein is nowhere near as, I'm not saying bad, but as disgusting as some of the other serial killers. Like we said, he's done some awful things and stuff, but the story behind what he really did, is the interesting part, stuff like that, and the
digging the graves,
the great movies that came from it, man. Texas Chainsaw Massacre,
Psycho. I mean, Silence of the Lambs is a mixture. I mean, the killer.
They're all a mixture of a little bit of both, but they're all inspired. I think
there's
a little
never
bit
been a serial killer like that.
Yeah, right.
He's a mixture of a few different ones.
Of course, yeah.
But I'm sure we'll get to it. So who's next on our list here?
Before I get to this one, you know a little bit about Henry Lee Lucas, right?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm saying because Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer.
I tried watching it again recently, man. It's just a brutal movie. It's just.
And Michael, what's his name? Michael Rooker.
Yeah, Michael Rooker.
Yeah, plays Henry Lee Lucas.
Good actor, but it's a hardcore flick, and.
Very hardcore. But another one where, if you only knew probably how many victims there really was. This is a guy who. You want to touch a little bit on?
No, go ahead. Okay, because I haven't seen the film in quite a while, and I know a little, but
it's a guy
worked with a partner. One of the few that they worked together.
Well, I was going to get to that really quick, but this is a guy who started basically hitchhikers. Would travel across the country. Mainly in certain areas. Again. Watch some biographies.
Go after.
There's
trucker stop hookers.
Of course, there's.
Actually, the documentary I saw kind of indicated that the FBI is watching a lot of truck drivers and thinking that a lot of serial killers have gone into that field because they're driving cross country, can drop bodies. So it sounds like they were actually watching people.
If you only knew how many people went missing in this country every year and how many serial killers.
Yeah.
I mean. There's estimates out, this is only, who knows?
This ain't like news. It's on every
2,000 something serial killers are probably out there stalking every day. So, I mean, it's a scary, scary planet, scary country.
That's partly why I watch the documentary, so I can learn something. What to avoid, what to look for.
Well, and you go to these like truck stops or anything when you're passing or traveling, you look at certain people and you go. So I mean, it's in your, head. Most people just go on, with their day-to-day lives.
Or even just, people in your neighborhood, what to look for. People that try to be a little bit too ingratiating to you, or people that take an interest in your kids, because no adult should take an interest in somebody else's kids. If they're, because if they're not your kids, they're all pretty much annoying unless they're a relative or something.
But anyways, Henry Lee Lucas, this guy. I mean, he would murder those victims. Hitchhikers. He would. I mean, they go into the hundreds. What he's said. Of course, I can't remember how many victims they said actually were found, But when you get somebody like him who travels,
right,
across the country, but yeah, he started from.
And some of them have bravado. Some of them want to make you think they did more than they did.
Right. So it's always hard to tell.
And so even the studies that we have.
Yeah.
With serial killers incarcerated that have wanted to talk, not every serial killer wants to talk. Mm-hmm. And the ones that do, they might be a little bit more of a blowhard. Oh, yeah, I've got this many, that many. Yeah. Nothing's accurate. So it's a hard field to study.
They've got all the time in the world to mess with your head.
Exactly.
So it takes a lot to get in the mind of a serial killer.
I mean, even Ted Bundy's final interview, where he blamed everything on violent pornography. When they raided his home, they didn't find any violent pornography. They found a bunch of cheerleader magazines.
Yeah.
That's what got his rocks off.
He could quite
possibly
possibly
was manipulating that entire interview.
Yeah. Yeah, without a doubt.
Even to the
how long
he was manipulating people.
And you know how long it took Ted Bundy to actually even open up? And then when he did, there was a very clear, not looking, directly at the interviewers, it was very concocted, I mean.
He gave the guy what he wanted, but he was controlling everything.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I mean, if you've never seen that last interview with, I forgot the religious person's name, but if you've never seen it, watch it. I mean, he's completely manipulating, and he's lying about what influenced him.
Oh yeah.
All right.
Again, you don't know. I mean, you're dealing with the crazy.
But we'll get to him in a little bit, I'm sure, because there's brand new movies about him now. So.
Right. But Henry Lee Lucas, again, he even partnered up with another guy.
I can't remember that guy's name.
I can't remember the name, but again, I would recommend a good read on Henry Lee Lucas, and just to get. Again, we're going over this because, again, I've always been intrigued with the mind and what led up to these people doing what they've done. This,
that's what interests me the most,
behavior.
Like I said.
But
what gets you there?
Yeah, meeting up with these guys, and I think they're trailer park trash to begin with. Not that that's what led them to, serial killing, but it's
when you offend our trailer park fans.
When you read the stories on how they lived, on top of everything else too, you would be like, oh my god, yeah, very disgusting, dirty, but yeah, very, very, as far as we know, lots and lots of victims, and just a very interesting.
And back then there were no databases. There were no. See, nowadays, unless you go after transients and prostitutes, drug addicts, you kill a regular person in the street, you're going to leave something. They've got so much that they can do, and the technology changes every day. It's really hard to kill somebody now. I mean, you got to be completely random.
Oh, and go after the ones.
But back then, different police departments didn't share information. Different cities, different states didn't share information.
Yeah, that's another big part of it. Yeah.
So now there's
states
huge databases.
Things.
Yeah. I mean, even within the same state, like with Zodiac, 3 different towns just didn't share information.
Right.
And they all had killings in those, towns. Yeah. Now it's different. There's, nationwide, there's worldwide databases.
Oh, yeah.
So,
if anything, it's
better now.
Yeah, better.
But if you're still going after random people that are kind of in between the cracks anyway, that's where your pool is. It's or unless you go completely random, like someone like a Bundy did,
Well, and he got caught, and
he mostly got caught because he's a bad driver. They should have made him go, as part of his punishment, go to remedial driving school, because everything you watch, it's because he got pulled over.
Yeah.
Oh
my. Okay, so there's another one here. Let me touch on Burke and Hare. 1972. It's a horror film.
I didn't even think of putting those guys in the category, but yeah.
Well, it's an interesting story. The Burke and Hare murders, nicknamed Westport murders, were serial murders perpetrated in Edinburgh, Scotland, from November 1827 to October 31st, Halloween, 1828. The killings were attributed to Irish immigrants William Burke and William Hare, who sold the corpses of their 17 victims to provide material for dissection.
So these guys were...
Their purchaser was Dr. Robert Knox, a private anatomy lecturer whose students were drawn from Edinburgh Medical College. Basically
they stumbled on the idea of
making some money.
This film I've seen, and it's kind of a fun film if you haven't seen it. I mean, these were real guys. They were what they call in the horror movies resurrectionists. Yeah. Back when doctors and medical schools were looking for human cadavers to teach anatomy on.
And this had a big influence on a lot of the early 1930s, 40s horror films. So,
and even even some of the Val Lewton, the body snatcher, Boris Karloff, that's what he is. Yep. But the film starts, they're digging up a freshly buried corpse. And they sort of stumble on the idea that, why don't we just go make our own corpses and keep getting paid a little bit faster instead of waiting for someone to die and getting a fresh one. Mm-hmm. And it's just, for them, it was mostly just whoever was convenient, finding somebody, getting them drunk, smothering them usually. They called it burking. Burking, that's what it was like later on. Nowadays, you've been burked. But and then they became very profitable for that brief period of time. But even in the film, their wives find out about it. They get in on it. I mean, they got one guy and it's like a boarding house, and the one he's practically dying anyway. They send him on his way a little bit sooner. And in the film, they're so gentlemanly. The way they talk to each other and everything like that. I think they hung one of them. I think one of them ended up turning state's evidence against the other. I can't remember exactly. But
two down and out guys who just...
Yep. Their characters have been featured in lots of films.
Oh, yeah.
Or characters like them. If they don't use the names Burke and Hare, they, feature characters like them.
Right.
This is a film from 1972. I know there's a remake from the 2000s. It stars... Simon Pegg from Shaun of the Dead and what's his nuts? The guy that played Gollum in Lord of the Rings movies. Can't remember his name. Yeah. Why is his name?
I know who you're talking about though,
but anyway, that guy. They play Burke and Hare. I haven't seen that one. I haven't been able to find a copy of that one to watch. Yeah. But it's a pretty cool flick. I like it. It's fun.
Yeah, cool. Yeah,
looks a little hammerish, but it's not hammer.
A little hammerish. Yeah. Right up Ted's alley. There. But another guy I'd like to touch on here a little bit is Albert Fish.
Oh, God.
Ted don't really want to talk about him, but...
He just gives me the willies.
The Gray Man is a film you could watch. It's pretty good, 2007.
Have you seen that?
I did. It was pretty good.
I don't think... Well, I probably wouldn't watch a movie about him anyway.
But
it's bad enough watching a documentary.
Yeah, but it's about Hamilton Howard Albert Fish. May 19, 1870 to January 16, 1936. Was an American serial killer. He was also known as the Gray Man, the Werewolf of Wisteria, the Brooklyn Vampire, the Moon Maniac, and the Boogeyman. A child rapist, a cannibal. He boasted that he had children in every state, and at one time put the figure at around 100. However, it is not clear whether he was talking about rapes or cannibalization. Less still to whether he was telling the truth. He was a suspect in at least 5 murders in his lifetime. Fish confessed to 3 murders that police were able to trace to a known homicide, and he confessed to stabbing at least 2 other people. He was put on trial for kidnapping and murder of Grace Budd, a small young girl, and was convicted and executed by electric chair. And I believe it's in the hundreds because this was an old man at the time he was
doing that
caught.
For a long time. It's not like he started when he was 60.
No, he was doing this for a long time.
Man,
and a very very disturbing that he towards the end he was the old man who would the candy to children, never take candy from
Grace Budd. Yeah, never take candy from a stranger. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No.
He was originally, I think, he was
engaged
to be a tutor for their son, who was a little bit older, and that's who he had his eye on at first. But then when he got to the house, here's little 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old Grace Budd, and then all of a sudden it became her. Sit on Grandpa's knee and everything, and eventually said, "Hey, can I take her to a party? I know where there's a party with other children." Mom said, "Yeah, take her." Boom, she got it. And then he even wrote like a disgusting letter to the mother. I ate her this way.
This guy was very, very disturbed, and again, to go your whole life in doing what he did and never getting caught until you're an old man. And the thing they found out once he died, that because they took X-rays of his, the corpse, because he would punish himself for what he was doing. So somehow he had some regret and
oh, poor him.
Yeah, right. But he would take 2-inch long needles and put them up between, what's that, the scrotum area, where the, what's that called, between the butthole and the penis?
Call it the geesh.
Yeah. And I believe they said he had somewhere...
The launching pad.
Somewhere's along the line of 168 of those or something like that. So,
man, you got anything better to do with your time?
Which goes to tell you, what if each one of those things was a victim? I didn't
even think about it like that. But yeah,
punishing himself, for thoughts, for what he was doing, everything else. But yeah, very disturbed individual, but very one of the sadder ones, over that we're talking about here. The story behind. Kids and then eating and very, very terrible. Not that it's better to eat a grown up, but don't take.
But it's just a little bit worse to eat a child,
of course. But we just wanted to touch on that because this guy is.
And I've watched some documentaries about him, and I remember you telling me about him ages ago.
Yeah.
And so I know he's one of your faves.
Interesting.
That you're more interested in. That's what I mean.
Right, yeah.
And I have ones that I'm, usually, anything about Dahmer, Zodiac. Those are the two main ones that interest the hell out of me.
Yeah.
Zodiac, especially just because he was never caught. Although, everybody thinks they've got it figured out. Right. If we get to him, I'll talk about it.
Heck, by this pace, we're going to be here for 5 hours.
That's okay.
So we'll try
long show.
We'll try to speed it up here a little bit. But
who do we got next?
The Hunt for the BTK Killer.
Dennis Rader, scary guy.
Yeah. Dennis Lee Rader, born March 9th, 1945, is an American serial killer who murdered 10 people in Sedgwick County, in and around Wichita, Kansas, between 1974 and 1991. He was known as the BTK Killer or the BTK Strangler.
Bind, torture, kill.
Yes, bind, torture,
Named
kill.
himself.
Yes, which was his famous signature. He sent letters describing the details of the killings to the police and local news outlets during the period of time in which the murders took place.
Wanted his name in the papers.
After a long hiatus in the 1990s through early 2000s.
It's because he had a family.
Right.
And he was involved in raising his family.
Right. Rader resumed sending letters in 2004, leading to his 2005 arrest and subsequent conviction. He is serving 10 consecutive life sentences at El Dorado Correctional Facility.
Do you know how he got caught?
What's that?
Do you know how he got caught?
I'm trying to think. I believe it's by one of the letters, the last letter he sent, right?
He was communicating with whoever was heading up the division, the BTK division. I can't remember his name. They would communicate. He would write the letters, or sometimes they would even communicate in the newspaper, like in the personal section.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And Dennis Rader had asked if information on a floppy disk, those old little 3.5 inch ones that we used to use, could that be traced to the computer that used it? Yes, it can. But the cops lied and said no. And so he did that, and they were able to trace it to, because he was one of the, I don't know if he was a treasurer or whatever. He was one of the president of the church,
right?
Like maybe the parishioners council or something like that. He was the president. It was used on that computer, and at a time when he was logged in, and that's how they nailed him. And they'll show you the footage, like the interrogation footage. He even sounds like he's offended. Like, why did you tell me that it was okay to do that?
Oh, yeah.
Like, he couldn't believe.
The ego and very arrogant.
That the cop would lie to him. And the cop said, well, because I wanted to catch you.
Yeah.
And he couldn't believe that the police lied to him. How could you lie to me? And then once he's like, well, I guess there's no getting around it now. And then, boom.
Yep.
And
he told his story.
I have a hard time believing that his family didn't know. Like, there were just recently on 2020, his daughter was on, and she claimed not to know, but she did claim that his wife caught him one time. I forget the exact term for it. He was basically strangling himself and masturbating. While he was doing it. Audio asphyxiation. Yeah. And he liked to wear women's clothing. He liked to put on lingerie and his wife's underwear and things like that. He did some weird shit. And, you hear people in your neighborhood are, getting killed, going missing, and you wonder sometimes. And, evidently... But that just goes just like Gacy's wife. You're going to tell me you didn't know there were 30 bodies buried under your house?
Oh, God.
Ridiculous. And we'll probably get to Gacy soon enough.
We'll definitely eventually talk about Gacy, yeah.
It boggles my mind that, I can understand a child not knowing, but a wife usually knows her husband pretty well. Mm-hmm. And he's very flat affect. Yeah. When you see the video of him in court, he's just reciting in detail what he did like it's no big thing.
Yeah.
Just as matter of fact, cold, hard facts. Scary dude.
Big guy too.
Not magnetic like Bundy was, not meek and pitiable like Dahmer was. Just it was weird. Just very flat.
Yeah,
sounds like someone's being killed upstairs.
What's going on?
This one I don't know nothing about.
What the heck? Yeah, we got the kids talking up there while we're. What the heck are you doing? Shut up! We're down here doing a serial killer show.
We're doing a big show!
Our kids are up there talking. Anyways.
What movies are next on our list?
Let's talk about John Wayne Gacy.
All right, let's talk about it.
They've
made a couple of movies about him.
Yeah. Plenty of documentaries, but yeah.
A great one is, we were talking about it, Dear Mr. Gacy, which takes place after he's already incarcerated. Mm-hmm. And a young man's writing him letters, trying to get into his head a little bit for a school project. Yeah. I think that's on Tubi TV on that app if you want to watch it. It's a good movie.
You know what? And that's Tubi TV. You can find a lot of documentaries and stuff about serial killers and stuff like that. And
some of the serial killer movies. Yeah. They made a movie about him. I can't remember the guy's name, but the guy that played Francis in Pee-wee's Big Adventure plays him.
Yeah.
In this, but he definitely, when he was born... when he was a kid, he had an overbearing father. John was a little effeminate. I don't want to say like girly. A little bit more. Wasn't into the rumble tumble of sports. Liked to garden with his mother. So
right.
His dad basically, would call him a faggot and say horrible things to him, and. So that way when he gets older, he's a big, macho, bravado kind of guy.
Yep.
Because that's the kind of guy his dad wanted him to be. Yep. But then his
dad sculpted him,
But then he
left scars.
But then he had these, homosexual feelings coupled with the anger at himself that his father, projected onto him. So he was arrested and imprisoned for here and there for sodomy. And then
But in the meantime, he's got.
How
many victims were in?
I think over 30.
Mostly under his
kind of like teenage runaway type boys in trouble, boys that wouldn't get found out about.
Yep. He would have them work for him in his construction company and stuff. So
and
which another
liked to handcuff him and choke him. While he was doing his thing. Like to. Be in total, like choke him almost to death, let go, let him revive a little bit, and then start choking him again. And he was very bold. He was out there, dressed as the clown for the kids' parties. He was, a member of, I don't know, maybe like some kind of local politics kind of thing. He was a big guy. Everybody knew John Wayne. Gacy. Yeah.
And again, when they found out about him, they're like, no way.
You know how they found out about that?
Not John Wayne.
He had been under suspicion. But, he's so bold, he invited cops over for dinner. Mm-hmm. Come on over for dinner. Yeah. And one cop was in his house and said, something just smells.
Yeah.
And he said something like, it smells... Mm-hmm. He's like, I can't place it. There's just a hint of an odor.
Odd smell.
And John Wayne, to cover up the smell of the bodies, he would use lye. He buried them under the crawl space in his house. He would use lye to cover up the smell. And that's used in autopsy rooms.
Right.
And it's just got that certain very faint smell. And that's when the cop finally realized that's what it is. It smells like an autopsy room or a funeral parlor or something. And boom, search warrant, boom.
Yeah.
Find these bodies.
Yeah, see,
and don't you love when they're covering their faces when they're everybody knows who the hell you are.
Right.
You know, oh no, don't look at me.
No need to hide.
Mm-hmm.
No. John Wayne Gacy, I think he's up there as one of the most iconic serial killers just because of, the clown, I think, has a big part to do with it.
A lot of bravado. I mean, a total act.
Yeah.
Instilled in him probably by his father, being verbally and physically abusive to him. And, thanks, Dad. You kind of made a serial killer. So, in a way.
Again, who knows? I mean, you
made him hate himself to the point where he had to project that onto other people.
Right.
I hate myself for being like this, so I'm going to, shove this ramrod up your ass and I'll teach you a lesson. And at the same time, I'm getting off on it. And it's interesting. It's interesting psychology.
Love your kids and love people out there.
Yes, and love your kids.
Raise them right. Yeah.
There you go. Because most of the time they're made. There's a few that are just born bad, and I believe that. Sometimes there could be just something wrong in your brain.
Oh yeah,
somewhere.
I believe that.
But a lot of times people like this are made that way.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm talking about, the nature versus nurture. Maybe you got something screwy in your brain, but if you were loved your whole life, maybe it wouldn't turn out so bad.
Yeah, true. The next movie that is a big one in the horror community, The Town That Dreaded Sundown, 1976. And this is The Phantom Killer, is an unidentified serial killer thought to be responsible for a series of slayings between February 22nd and May 3rd, 1946, which became known as the Texarkana Moonlight Murders. The murders occurred in and around the city of Texarkana, which sits astride the border between Texas and... I didn't even say all that. Yeah. The attacks took place at approximately 3-week intervals. The Phantom Killer was also known as the Texarkana Phantom, and simply the Phantom Slayer, and the Moonlight Murderer, because he often killed late at night. And they never caught this killer.
Don't be damned.
Yeah. So...
Who else we got?
Let's go to... The Hillside Strangler.
I know a little bit about the Hillside Strangler.
We can go through some of these pretty quickly. In the mid, the Hillside Strangler is the
This
media...
was actually 2 guys, I believe.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Is the media epithet for 2 men, cousins Kenneth Bianchi and Angelo Buono, who were convicted of kidnapping, raping, torturing, and killing girls and women ranging.
Kind of weird for them to work in tandem like that.
From 12 to 28.
There's a handful like that, but just weird. That
during a 4-month period from late 1977 to early 1978. There you go.
I mean, how weird! Like in the same family. I mean, like if you're going to go up to your cousin, and go, hey, you want to go rape and kill some girls?
No, I know that's odd that you would say, well, let me.
Who was the first to bring up that subject?
Let me think about it, and we'll talk. We'll talk in the weekend. Yeah,
text me later.
Yeah, text me later, and I'll let you know what I think.
I don't get it, man.
Very odd, but yeah, they went on a quick spree.
Yeah. Not enough to be worth much of a footnote, I guess.
No,
there's way better ones.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a couple movies based on it. Again, we're gonna move past some of these here. Let's
scroll up and look for some that we know something about. Who's this?
Let me see. Oh, Dr. Crippen.
I don't know who that is.
Let's see. Dr. Crippen, 1963, crime drama history. Harvey Crippen, usually known as Dr. Crippen, was an American homeopathic physician hanged in Pentonville Prison, London, on November 23, 1910, for the murder of his wife, Cora Henrietta Crippen. He was the first criminal to be captured with an aid of wireless communication. So not so much a serial killer, although I do remember the story because he was because of the pharmacist and the killing that way. But yeah, we'll move on to the next.
Few stories of doctors who have done that. Interesting. Yeah. There's a handful of you sickos
when you've
there.
When you've got access to poisons and you could literally, Yeah, yeah.
Ooh, the Countess.
But the Countess.
Talking about
2009.
Countess Elizabeth Bathory.
Yes.
From, was it Hungary, I think?
Yes, I do believe so. Now, Hungarian nobility.
This isn't my particular... There's lots of movies about Elizabeth Bathory. My favorite, of course.
You don't want me to read? Go ahead.
Well, she was... she would murder virgins and bathe in their blood to give herself
young
eternal
female
youth.
victims. Yes.
Now, my favorite movie version of this, without anybody even having a guess, is Hammer's Countess Dracula.
Really?
Starring Ingrid Pitt as Countess Bathory.
Yeah.
Starts off as an old woman, bathes in that blood, starts turning young again, and freaking hot.
Ingrid
hot!
I get you.
Smoking hot in that movie.
But we're talking way back into...
what was it, 17th century,
1600s?
Yeah. I don't know how many people she killed, and I don't know how much of it is just myth through the ages.
True. Well, think about it. Yeah, with her power back then, she could have had, it could quite possibly have been 100, as many as she wanted. So,
in their Hammer
and they
film,
would just turn their head. So,
after she rejuvenates, she's portraying herself as her daughter.
Yeah.
And, mother's sick. She's, lying down, whatever. But, and Countess Dracula is kind of a bad title for the movie anyway. She doesn't drink the blood. She bathes in the blood. But,
of course.
Ingrid Pitt's so damn hot in that movie.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll move on to the next one. Of course, Night
Weird
Stalker.
cover on that movie.
Yeah, Night Stalker 2002. This wasn't the greatest film. There's better... movies out there.
You're better off just watching a documentary about Richard Ramirez. Right. He's still a crackpot.
Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker,
dead now, but...
who terrorized people in Los Angeles during the 1980s.
And he did things the way that I was just talking about, completely random.
Right.
Young people, old people, sometimes with a knife, sometimes with a gun, sometimes with his bare hands.
And he went on the Zodiac had something to do with it.
Maybe he used just the inspiration of being completely random and using the freeway system, not doing things in the same town, going here, going, up here. But there was always like a bloody pentagram at the scene, so they knew it was him.
Yeah. Who's the
I can't remember exactly how he got caught though.
Who's that kid that not that kid, that guy that Lambamba who played
Richie Lou Diamond Phillips?
Lou Diamond Phillips. What was the movie he played? He played the Night Stalker, didn't he?
I don't know.
Late 80s movie? Early 90s maybe?
Are you thinking of The First Power?
Yeah. Oh, is that somebody else then?
No, Lou Diamond Phillips is in that movie. I've never seen it, so I don't know if that's what it's about.
I believe it's the Zodiac Killer.
Or maybe it's about Richard Ramirez, because I remember there was a pentagram.
Yeah. I do believe so. I haven't seen it since then.
Tell us if we're wrong.
So, yeah.
Maybe a lot of you are like, Lou Diamond who?
Lou Diamond Phillips. He
was pretty big back in the day.
For a short second there in the 80s.
He had a hot 15 minutes.
Yeah.
He did some good movies. He did Young Guns.
I know, yeah.
Which I almost can't watch anymore, but...
Really?
It's silly. It's honestly not my kind of Western.
No, yeah. You like your spaghetti Western.
Well, actually, you know what? I'm not even a huge Western fan. Yeah. I mostly just like Sergio Leone's Westerns. Right. They're different than... And even if you watch other spaghetti Westerns, his are still different than... Tarantino, I like all Tarantino's movies, but all he does is take the cool shit that other people have already done, and he makes his own movie out of it.
He puts a spin on it, but he does it in a great way.
But sometimes it's just so... If you watch movies, it's so blatant. Like, I can watch almost all his movies, and I can tell you exactly what movie he took something from, or where he got that idea.
I don't care. Good art.
Well, it's fine, but it's
I know.
And he's always good at giving credit where credit is due. So I got nothing against Quentin. Yeah. I'm looking forward to his new movie.
Okay, so do we need to talk about Amanda Knox? Or
I don't know much about her. Isn't she just accused of killing one person?
I forget. We'll skip.
Let's look at some good serial killers. Let's look at some real ones here. Something that we know.
Let's see.
I don't know nothing about that.
The Alphabet Killer.
I don't know nothing about that. We just look at this whole list of serial killer movies and
the Unabomber.
Took forever to catch that old boy.
Yeah, it did. Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber.
David Berkowitz, son of Sam. Martin Sheen played David Berkowitz.
Son of Sam. Yeah, let's talk about him a little bit.
Son of Sam, New York, dirty New York City.
Yeah, grimy, gritty,
like Basket
New York.
Case.
Yeah, like Basket Case.
The New York that we love.
Oh, I can't talk.
Taxi Driver and Basket Case. Those are the New Yorks I want.
Oh yeah, dirty it up. Throw your garbage out on the sidewalk.
Exactly. Put the junkies and the needles out on the street.
Yeah, let the prostitutes, let the
more
rats,
prostitutes, more drugs.
Let the rats, in the alleys. Even though you get that now too, but
yeah, I guess so. But I want it everywhere.
But yeah, Son of Sam.
David Berkowitz adopted.
I like that Newman had the mailbag of Son of Sam.
Yes.
In one of the episodes, and he used it for Kramer to bet on airline flights.
This is true.
Anyways, go on.
He was adopted into a Jewish family.
Oh no, good. I don't mean to make light of it.
Reserved.
That's what we do.
I know a little bit about him.
Yeah.
Didn't grow quite like a regular kid. Wasn't quite a normal kid,
yeah.
And
he had those eyes. Those eyes. You say, man, he's got those.
Yeah. As an adult,
eyes.
just couldn't make any kind of connections with women really. Got involved in like a satanic cult. Got involved, all kinds of stuff. And finally, it just sounds like. It almost a little bit like Travis Bickle-ish from Taxi Driver, just sitting in that apartment, going nuts slowly, listening to the neighbor's dog bark incessantly, to the point where he started imagining that the dog is telling him what to do,
right?
And gets himself a gun and just starts looking for lovers parked in cars around New York City, and pop.
Took the easy way out and just used the 44.
And he was I forget exactly how he was caught. I mean, he wrote some letters too, obviously, right. Taunting police.
I'm pretty sure they caught him by the letter too, but I'd have to revisit.
Yeah, I just watched something about him not too long ago.
Strange that I don't know Son of Sam.
But they got him.
Details.
And, he's still in prison. I mean, I think he tried to come out and say it was actually the satanic cult that was making him do it, and so
He's like, oh, thank God I'm in here.
I guess.
I can stop my killing. The Hunt for the Unicorn Killer.
Oh, what the hell is that?
I have no idea.
I didn't mean stop and read it. I'm just like, what the hell is that?
Well, hey, it could be interesting, though.
I doubt it.
Yeah, I know. Let's see. Confessions of a Serial Killer. That's Henry Lee Lucas. Mm-hmm. Do you want to talk about Jack the Ripper a little bit?
Oh, we could. There are so many movies on this list. Well, there's a Jack the Ripper, I guess, so we can talk about Jack the Ripper.
Yeah.
There's so many movies on that list, like you would expect, like.
Well, there's even what's that? Malcolm McDowell one that Jack the Ripper in the time. Travel
Time After
thing.
Time.
Time After Time.
Oh, that's a cool movie.
He plays
H.G. Wells.
Yeah.
And goes back. David Warner plays Jack the Ripper, and they both end up going back in time to modern day. I think like L.A.
Yeah.
And now Jack the Ripper's loose in L.A. and H.G. Wells is trying to catch him. Oh.
It's good. It's very
total fantasy, but cool movie.
Very cool movie. Yeah.
I don't know if it's
Malcolm McDowell's awesome, man. I mean,
Malcolm McDowell is in a lot of shit movies, but he is always the best thing in it.
Right, he's always the best thing.
Matter of fact, he played. Well, maybe before we talk Jack the Ripper, he played in a serial killer film. It's called Evilenko, and this is about. Evilenko.
Oh, that's right.
Chukiro or something like that. He was a Russian serial killer who was brutal.
Oh,
mostly children, again.
Yeah, train stations.
My sister's got a T-shirt of him.
Really?
Yeah, he's one of the ones that she's interested in.
Yeah.
She's mostly interested in Ted Bundy. She even had a pin that said, "I love Ted."
Oh, my God.
I think it was like one of the original ones from back in the day or whatever.
But yeah, that dude is.
I remember there's a scene in the film where he kills a child on a train.
Yeah.
And he's got nowhere to dispose of it. There's like a little drain pipe. Mm-hmm. He cuts that kid all up and just mashes it through there.
Historically, I think it was the first Russian serial killer, case kind of, and they brought people from United States to help them kind of.
I think even when he was in court, they had him in a cage.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a lunatic.
Yeah.
But just a guy that was. And there's documentaries.
Overbearing wife, I think.
I can't recall, but
but the movie was
jumped from
fantastic.
job to job to job.
Yeah.
I think he was a teacher, maybe.
Yeah.
But since we were talking about Malcolm McDowell, there you go.
Yeah,
I forgot about that one. I bet that one's not even on the list.
Probably not. No.
But Jack the Ripper. Now, which one is this? Just Frank. Oh, Klaus Kinski in this one, huh?
Oh, yeah.
1976 might be interesting. Lots of Jack the Ripper movies, though. So
and we still don't know who he was.
No, we don't.
You know, it's
lots of interesting ideas, and all of them have some credence. I mean,
yeah. Well, it's almost legend now. I mean, you know, it's just.
I love the idea that the Freemasons were involved in some way, but and there is some things to indicate that. Yeah. The way some of the murders were done, the neck cut from certain angles and bodies cut in twain, and as some of the passages
symbolism of Freemasonry,
and where bodies were found, and some of the writing that was found on the wall there. The Jews are the ones who will not be blamed for nothing. Not Jews as in Jews, but Jues, which is something dealing with, I think, Egypt and Masonic ritual. But that's interesting. And the movie From Hell with Johnny Depp, and it dealt with that a little bit.
Yeah, that was.
By the way, a really good graphic novel, too, that it was based on, much better. And what I liked about that graphic novel...
But the Johnny Depp... That movie was not bad.
It was not bad.
It was an okay movie.
But the book is so much better. It's not particularly well drawn, but the story is good. And what I like is, as you read each chapter, you flip to the back of the book, and there's, like, footnotes and... anecdotes to explain everything else that's going on in there, like behind the scenes. So I would read the chapter, then go and read this, and and if you do that for every chapter, you really get a huge idea of what was going on. Yeah. And they back everything up with their footnotes and everything like that. So it was interesting in that way.
Yeah.
But I mean,
the character of Jack the Ripper is just it's I love the Victorian era.
Yes.
So just adding in. The lore of Jack the Ripper has just been so intriguing because of so many British TV series, have incorporated that character in them. And Whitechapel is one of them. There's a great episode from that BBC serial that I would recommend go watch. Actually, every episode of Whitechapel is fantastic.
Do you have any theories? Like, who do you think it was? Or
Ted, they've got things so discombobbled. It's so hard.
What gets me is that it started and it stopped.
Right.
It's not like it kept going.
Which
and most serial killers will keep going.
But it makes sense because it was near a ship port and so easy to, if they were getting close or what was going on, or you figured, let's move on. Go somewhere else. So,
or the
which there were a couple people they said fit that description in that, but
and the theory that the like a movie like From Hell postulates is that one of the relatives of the royalty got a prostitute knocked up. And this is a big embarrassment to the crown. We're just going to go and take care of this. And in the film, the royal surgeon is the one who's dispatched to do this, and he takes it upon himself to do this in some big Masonic, ritual to make everything. He was very steeped in Masonry, right? And the movie does show some things, about the initiation rituals and things like that, which I know a little bit about.
Former Mason. Oh,
I'm not former. I just don't go to lodge anymore.
Oh, he still is. So.
I guess once you're in, you're always in. I guess my name's still on a book somewhere.
He's still. Why isn't he giving us his dues?
Yeah, I know.
Come on.
They never sent me a bill, but and maybe those were just the prostitutes that fit the description they had of the one, and maybe when he finally got the one, that it was, then they were done. And I mean, I find it curious. I mean, how could they have possibly have caught him? I mean, He was so quick, cut, slice, dice, leave. I mean, it's not like cops were, especially trained back then.
I think he moved on and went to a different location.
You think?
I do, because, I mean,
could be.
I mean, they went so far as to say, and stuff I've read, that there were similar killings farther down the coast,
right.
where the same ships that ported there.
Interesting,
and
could be.
So, that's my thought process, and I think the guy probably never did ever get caught. He if he kept the same thing which was going on there, I mean,
moved around.
Yeah, I mean,
back then.
Yeah, back then you just had so many prostitutes, so many.
That's the way we like it, man.
So many homeless.
Lots of prostitutes.
So many homeless.
Sorry, I hit the table.
So many homeless and stuff that, I mean, it just made it so easy back then, especially for what he was doing to get, even though he was very intricate in how he did things, so he could think things out, make sure things were precise, and still.
You wonder if he was the one who actually wrote those letters to the police. Maybe somebody else did.
Yeah, who knows? Who knows?
Because, I mean, when it comes to letters, I see the next guy we got queued up here, the Zodiac.
Yeah.
Here's where things get interesting with letters.
The Zodiac killer.
Zodiac never caught, terrorized the...
An elusive serial killer known as the Zodiac terrorizes the San Francisco Bay in the late 1960s, while detectives aim to stop him before he claims more victims. The Zodiac, 2005. I'm not sure how good this movie is. I haven't really seen it.
David Fincher's Zodiac is just a phenomenal movie. It's riveting. Anytime it's on, I will watch it.
Yeah.
I think it's fascinating.
It's fascinating.
Well, I mean, just the attention to detail.
Right.
And,
well done.
I mean, the movie does point at Arthur Lee Allen as the Zodiac. Mm-hmm. And based on everything you can learn about Arthur Lee Allen, I love him as the Zodiac. If I was a cop, that's my guy.
Right.
But they never matched his DNA because they checked he had already died, but they checked the saliva on the stamp and the envelope for the letters that we still had. Yeah. And the handwriting never matched. They thought, well, maybe he's writing with his left hand. And, So my theory was always that Zodiac was two people. That Arthur Lee Allen did the killing and someone else wrote those letters.
You think?
That is always when there's one part in the movie, they don't dwell on it too much. It's when Jake Gyllenhaal's character goes to see the guy that was maybe running that movie theater. Yeah. And he was talking about the Most Dangerous Game poster and everything. And you hear somebody walking upstairs and he's like, I thought we were alone. Yeah. You never find out who that is.
Right.
Excuse me. So my theory is that Zodiac was two people. Someone else wrote those letters, and Arthur Lee Allen did the killing. Because, I mean, there's so many things about him. I mean, he was a little taunting and cocky with the police. He fits the description of the people who saw him. Some of the survivors picked his picture. Oh, sorry, I'm doing it again. No, picked his picture and said, that's the guy. Yeah. That is him. Yeah. But they could never peg it on him because of the letters. And we know at least... one of the letters is legitimate because Zodiac killed a taxi driver. Mm-hmm. And when the letter took credit for the taxi driver killing, it included a piece of fabric from the taxi driver's shirt.
Right.
And so that's how he was able to prove I killed that guy. Yep. And that handwriting, so at least that one letter out of all the others, we know that one's his. Yeah. And, Arthur Lee Allen had the background... even the books on how to make those codes, he checked that out of the library. I mean, I love that guy for Arthur for the Zodiac. Yeah. But I personally think someone else wrote the letters and mailed the letters.
Interesting. Okay.
I think someone else worked with him. And that's that was the genius of it. You're not going to, one can't get caught without the other.
Again, to find somebody to work with you on this stuff is just... come on, that's,
Right,
but,
so...
hey, weirder things have happened, man.
The character that, the person that...
And that movie fantastic. You know.
The real person, Robert Graysmith, that Jake Gyllenhaal plays in that movie, he even wrote a follow-up book, Zodiac Unmasked, but he never used Arthur Lee Allen's name in it.
Yeah.
He called him like Arthur Starr or something like that.
Uh-huh.
So it's kind of hard to read because I keep wanting to see Arthur Lee Allen, and it's like for some reason he wasn't allowed to use Arthur Lee Allen's name since he wasn't actually accused of it.
Right.
But I tell you, after... And not just watching the movie, I've watched every documentary. There's even a good, it's on the History Channel. There hasn't been a second season yet. I don't know if you watched it. It's called The Hunt for the Zodiac Killer.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a old school New York cop, New York detective, and a guy who did he was in the military, but he was involved in like deep investigation and stuff like that. And they're working together.
Right.
And they're finding killings that happened in other communities that really match it. And that's mentioned in the books and stuff too.
Yeah.
And they bring out all kinds of different suspects. And they kind of shy away from, Arthur Lee Allen. Maybe because of the handwriting. I mean, they're looking for somebody who, fits one bill.
Yeah.
And they haven't quite nailed it down yet, but it was 4 or 6 episodes on the History Channel. You could probably stream them. They were really good, but I'm still thinking, even
So
Arthur Lee Allen, he had the watch with the Zodiac on it.
Right.
He had a relative, or no, it was a friend, family friend or whatever, that even came to the police later and said he said a long time ago that he was going to be a killer. He was going to call himself the Zodiac, said exactly how he was going to do things.
Yeah.
But someone else wrote those JD letters.
Okay.
That's what I think.
I go with it, man.
Because that's the only reason why they weren't able to get him.
Yeah.
Because of those damn letters.
Right.
The handwriting did not match, and his DNA doesn't match. But if someone else mailed them...
Oh, yeah, it's so interesting.
That's my theory, that it's 2 people.
No, I totally legit. I get it. Let's go because we are.
Oh, and letters stopped when Arthur Lee Allen was in jail.
Right. Yeah.
And when he gets out of jail, like 6 months later, boom, letters start up again.
Look at Ted going. Yeah.
Well, see, this is the one that I'm really into. Especially ones that aren't solved. Those get me. When someone outsmarts all the police and detectives and everybody. That it's interesting to me. The cat and mouse. Like I could think. Being a detective, I would just be obsessed. Like I would work night and day trying to figure out who this guy is.
Well, you watched plenty of these, you mentioned History Channel, so many of these like cold case,
I love that kind of stuff.
Shows and stuff like that where, or reopening cases, dead files and stuff that's been,
you can't have
40
a family
years
and
ago.
do that kind of job. That's just, it's more than a job.
Yeah, another good one's The Killing Fields. They've had some good.
I love Rowdy.
Yeah,
I
Rowdy.
love Rowdy, man.
Yeah.
I hope he gets that guy that killed Eugene. Killing Fields is great. And
I would recommend that as a good one.
And then there's the next group that in the season 3 or whatever, and I like those guys too.
Yeah, different guys, but a little different. But no, very very good.
Fascinating to me.
Well, let's try to get in the main one. As of right now, with the Zac Efron movie, Ted Bundy. Let's talk about him a little bit because we're
What's the general consensus? Here, I know you're more in the community than I am because I'm not a social media guy. I'm not a social guy. I only talk to this guy.
We got to look into this guy.
What's the general consensus about that movie? People like it. They don't like it.
I think the same as we're going to talk about mainly. I mean, it's a good movie for what it but. It has nothing to do with the serial killings, really. It's about the court proceedings and his character and his relationship, and then everybody takes it for what it is. I mean,
what I think a lot of people need to understand is number one, it was directed.
Me personally, I'm not too thrilled with that whole portrayal of the movie. I'd rather.
I think out of all the movies I've watched about Ted Bundy, Zac Efron, I think, nailed it the best.
Yeah, okay.
But the guy who directed the film Extremely Wicked, Evil, Vile, whatever it was.
That long name.
Joe Berlinger. He's a documentary filmmaker. He made like the Paradise Lost movies about the West Memphis 3.
Yeah.
But he also, the the conversation tapes with Ted Bundy that's on Netflix as well, that documentary series. He directed that as well. And I think it's helpful if you watch that first, then watch the movie. Because you already know the background, you know the facts, you know what he did.
Yeah. Because
the film doesn't really show him killing anybody. Mm-hmm. And did you watch the movie, the Zac Efron movie?
No, I haven't.
You haven't watched it. Okay, so I'm not gonna. There's not much to spoil.
Yeah, you can talk about it.
But it's just kind of funny.
I'm not too interested.
Okay, so he had this one girlfriend. Okay.
Right.
And not the one that's in the movie, but she was kind of well-to-do and ended up breaking up with him because he had no ambition. He was going nowhere. Yeah. So then all of a sudden you get a new Ted Bundy, going to law school, getting involved in the Republican Party, whatever. You know, he's a new man. They get back together. Yeah. And I think it was on New Year's Eve, whatever, following, he dumps her. Mm-hmm. Like, okay, I did this, and now...
Right.
Now, the funny thing is I can't remember that female's name, but every woman that he murdered, that we know about... Mm-hmm. sort of resembles her.
Right.
Okay? That particular, not the girlfriend that he had in the film, but this other girl.
Right.
And, you know, kind of like the longer, the dark hair, parted in the middle, kind of pretty, you know, and, you know, it's like, is he, you know, just killing that same girl over and over again?
There's something to that.
And...
he just was not good with women. Period.
Well, I mean, he was a sociopath in that...
And I'm talking relationship.
We throw that word around.
Because he's very charismatic and all that stuff. I get that.
But it was all an act.
He can bring the girl to him, but once he, like that woman, the relationship didn't work because he didn't know what the hell to do.
Like, even when he was in the relationship with, and again, forgive me, I forget the name of the girl in the film with her daughter. Mm-hmm. You know, everything that he did... I mean, he was a true definition of a sociopath, and that word gets bandied about a lot, and maybe people don't always understand what it means. It's someone who has no conscience, but can act like they do. You know, they see how you act, and they just do the same thing, but in reality, they don't feel anything. And that's what he did. He did what a normal person would do, acted the way a normal person would act, but honestly had no feelings.
Oh, no, 100%.
And... you know, very manipulative and
something in the brain just doesn't allow you to be affected by remorse or you know, emotion.
You know, he didn't have the worst childhood. I mean, he was born out of wedlock. He was an illegitimate child. He didn't find out till much later. For a long time, he thought his grandparents were his parents and that his mother was actually his sister, and that kind of screwed him up a bit. And but I mean, I don't know. You could get over that. You know, something obviously didn't connect properly with Bundy, and where am I going with this? I mean, just...
I don't know. You're just talking about that movie, I think, and his...
I liked the movie, but, I mean, if you're looking for a film about what he did, there's other films out there that are pretty brutal.
But him as a serial killer, I mean... but
I don't think the term serial killer even existed until Bundy. They're the one, you know... And it is kind of funny. It was the first televised... One of the first televised court cases.
I don't know why I wasn't as intrigued with... Not to say I'm totally not, but, you know...
Well, maybe you just haven't delved into it, you know, as much.
No, I mean, I know and have seen plenty on Ted Bundy.
Smart.
It's just...
I mean, there's scenes in the film... Like, he escaped from jail twice.
Oh, yeah.
First time he was... Because he wanted to defend himself... He's in
and
the
I can see
library.
how he did, though, too. So.
That gave him...
Stupid.
Defending himself, there was also a two-ply thing to that. Not only does he get to show off and defend himself, but you get special privileges when you're on counsel. You get, you know, unlimited phone calls, better food. Because, you know, you got to stay sharp. You have to get certain nutrients, that you know, better lighting, you know, and access to the law library. And he went every day and bided his time till the guard wasn't looking, jumped out second story window and ran. Got pulled over in a car and got caught some days later. The second time, and they show this in the film, he sees, you know, a little grating, like where the light is. And they don't show too much of this in the film. They make it seem like he gets out of a much bigger space. Maybe he starved himself so that he could fit through there because he knew he could get that off. He practiced like jumping off the top bunk onto the ground. You know, the pressure. Can I do it? Can I jump when I have to get out of here?
Yeah.
How do I land? Bust it out, and then from there, that was in Colorado, I believe, where he escaped and made his way ultimately to Florida, where he almost immediately after getting settled, goes to the sorority house and commits some of his most brutal crimes. One of the things that convicted him was a bite mark. He bit one of the girls so hard on the butt. After he was done, it left his teeth imprints.
Yep.
And they used that partially to convict him. And what the funny thing is, as we come to learn now, that's kind of junk science.
Oh, yeah.
Like, nowadays, that wouldn't fly in court. You couldn't convict somebody based on that because they can disprove that. Yeah. But it was one of the things that helped convict him back then. And I even when you're watching the conversation, the Netflix documentary series, when they got the warrant to get the molds of his teeth, he went ballistic. They didn't tell him where they were taking him. They got him like at 10 o'clock at night, got him out of his cell, drove him to the dentist's office, and like, you got to sit in the chair. And he just, you can't do this to me. This is against my right. You can't do, because he knew. He knew what they were going to do. I mean, frightfully intelligent guy, but a sociopath. And interesting in that way. I mean, even when all the people standing outside cheering when he, all these people, they had nothing to do with any of the victims or whatever. They're, just a bunch of drunk college kids, kind of stupid. But, even when he was cremated, he wanted his ashes scattered throughout the Cascade Mountains, where he said he had some of the best times of his life, which is where most of his victims were, and that he would go back and revisit and have sex with the corpses and things like that. But he even helped the FBI while he was incarcerated. He helped catch the Green River Killer. Which I see you've got on the top of your list here. That was Gary Ridgway. And because he would help the FBI, he's like, you need to find a fresh site. When you find a fresh body, don't announce it, leave it, because he's coming back to visit it. Because he knew, because that's what I did. He's like, he's coming back to relive it. And so they learned things from him. It's a shame they had to fry his brain. You
get that same feeling over and over again as you go back to the site.
That's not ultimately what caught the Green River Killer. His job ended up, technology and his job is what ended up catching him.
Caught up to him.
But Bundy gave them some, insights into, his type of deviant behavior when he finally started talking about it. But a master manipulator. My favorite part in the film, the Zac Efron film, is when the police officer, the girl that he's had that relationship with this whole time. They show her pictures, and one of them is a body with no head on it, and she goes to the court. Like the film starts with he's about to be executed soon, and he must have called and asked to see her. And she comes to visit him. And she shows him that picture. It's like, what happened to her head? And he can't tell her. He can't bring, even though he's said it all, he can't bring himself.
I feel like I'm interviewing you.
So what he writes on the
I'm interviewing Ted today.
What he writes on the plexiglass, he just starts writing letters, and when he's done, it just says hacksaw. Like he can't say it, but but he's admitting to her that he did it. And very sneaky. I mean, he would put the fake sling on and fake cast on and ask people to help him. Preyed on people that way. Acted like he was a police officer. When he got caught by the police and was going to be in a lineup, he changed his hair to style. I mean, he would do stuff like that. I mean, he's a damn interesting man. But deadly. And I think even though he was only convicted of 30-some murders as well, it could be bravado, but I'll bet anything that he's got way more.
I think so too.
I think he's got way more. And there was some evidence that he may have even done his first one when he was like 12 years old. There was like an 8-year-old or 6-year-old girl in his neighborhood that went missing, and the last time she was seen, she was walking with him while he was doing his paper route early in the morning. And he may have done that.
The unsolved cases that. Oh my God!
And he tried to buy himself more time.
We'll be back after this short message from our audience.
He tried to buy himself more time up to the last. I'll tell you where there's more victims. I'll tell you where there's more. And They just weren't going to do it.
Right.
And the one, not the movie with Zac Efron, but one of the other movies about Ted Bundy, they depict the execution and the things that they have to do. I mean, they cram cotton up your ass because you're going to crap yourself.
You remember what movie that was?
I think it was just called Ted Bundy or Bundy.
Oh, really?
I mean, not only do they shave your head and all this stuff, I mean, they're cramming cotton up his ass. And they're like, oh, come on, man, you can take it.
You have to.
But, I mean, that's just stuff that they do that, I mean, a lot of times movies just show, hey, we put the hood on, they got their hair and everything. I mean, no, they shave your head, they shave a lot of your hair, and, they shove cotton up your ass because you're going to crap yourself. And nobody wants to clean that up.
Oh, my.
So...
Well, hey, yeah, there you go.
Interesting.
I think this could have gone on and on. I think touching on it, but I think we hit.
Hell, we could do a part 2 next week.
I think we hit most of the major ones right now. But yeah, that was very interesting. A nice little discussion, a little bit different than we've done.
And I know way more. I just realized I know way more about this stuff than I probably want to.
Well, we watched a lot of crime and
I love crime documentaries,
historical,
cold case files. Yeah. Deviant behavior I'm interested in, and I don't want to shortchange the victims.
You work on a floor that deals with mental behavior.
Well, not quite this.
No, of course not. Of course not. But
maybe a little schizophrenia, bipolar disorder.
No. Yeah, don't get me wrong. No, Ted works like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. But anyways, a little
in
bit
some
more.
ways, yeah, maybe a little bit more like that in some ways.
But yeah, no, it's a very different show we did here.
Yeah.
I think a little interesting. I enjoyed this.
And I just don't want to slight any of
the victims. 2 guys sitting on a porch. Hey, we should change the...
2 guys sitting on the porch?
We should change the channel to
you need
2
a
guys
porch,
sitting
though.
on a porch.
We could do it out in your patio.
I can make it look like a porch here.
So, bless all the, I mean, just, love for the victims and their families.
Definitely, yeah. And it's like we were talking, it's a shame that...
We only remember the killers.
Yeah, we only remember the killers. We don't remember the victims, but... it's just the way it is. Hopefully the families get some kind of comfort from these sickos that get caught.
You get so interested in the psychology of it. Yeah. And you forget the people that suffered. And suffered is an understatement in many cases. Very few of them just got a quick death. No. And it just, learn what you can. That's why I watch a lot of documentaries and read the books. Not that you can spot a serial killer from a mile away, but knowing certain behaviors and knowing, certain telltale signs and things like that, might
keep an eye
save
on
your
things.
life someday.
Keep an eye on things.
And
it's nice, some of the movies that have spun off of some of these serial killers and in the horror genre, the field that we're in here on YouTube. It's just been interesting. But anyways, there you go. Like us on everything, links are below.
Smash that like button.
Yeah, subscribe and all that good stuff. But if you enjoyed this, put some links. If we missed anybody, put some links down below. Some of your favorite films, dealing with serial killing and stuff like that.
If you are a serial killer, let us know.
Oh, geez, Ted. Anyways.
We will forward that to the FBI.
Yeah, there you go. So there you go, man. Until next week, I'm not sure what we're going to do. Get a cough in there. We'll see you then, man. The Late Late Horror Show. Peace out.